The only clock this animal has is the fallout from our own hydrogen bombs. In 2016, a team hauled 28 Greenland sharks onto a research vessel and cut out their eyes. Every shark, longer than about 2 meters, came back with no bomb signature in it at all. Not because the fallout missed them, because they were already alive before the first one went off. To see why that works, you have to look at the eye. The nucleus of a vertebrate lens is laid down before birth. Crystalline proteins, metabolically inert, never replaced for the whole of the animal's life. A time capsule sealed at roughly age 0. Whatever carbon was in the water when that shark was an embryo is still sitting in the middle of its eye today. And in the 1950s, we changed the carbon. Atmospheric thermonuclear testing pushed a spike of carbon-14 into the ocean, arriving in North Atlantic food webs no later than the early 1960s. Every animal born after that carries the mark. So the test is brutally simple. Cut the lens. Look for the bomb. Of the 28 sharks, only the ones at or under about 220 centimeters had it. The largest animal they sampled was 5 meters and 2 centimeters long, and the paper puts her at 392 years old. But that number is a midpoint, not a measurement. The paper places her somewhere between 272 and 512 years, with 95.4% probability. You will see it written as 392 plus or minus 120. That is not an error bar. The paper defines it as the midpoint plus or minus half a probability range. It is a window, and the animal is somewhere inside it. And only the small sharks were actually read. The other 25 were modeled, a Bayesian calibration anchored on a single shark that happened to sit right on the pulse, and constrained by the assumption that bigger means older. On the radiocarbon alone, those sharks could have been anywhere from 56 to 556 years old. Everything that narrows that is the model. So here is the claim the paper actually defends, and it is the one that matters. A lifespan of at least 272 years. Not 400. At least 272. The flaw alone makes this the longest-lived vertebrate we know of, not the oldest animal on Earth, since a clam called Ming was aged at 507, but the oldest thing with a backbone. The runner-up, the bowhead whale, manages about 211. Simon Thorold of Woods Hole put it this way: I have very little faith in the number they come up with, but it shouldn't overshadow the overall message. He doubted the figure. He did not doubt that these animals are extraordinarily old. When the tabloids ran 512-year-old shark headlines in December 2017, the lead author went public to correct them. His team had found no such animal. And in the years since, nobody has checked the work with a second method. The field's own review says the ages still need verification by an independent technique. The obvious candidate, amino acid racemization, the method that works on whales, was tried on this species and it failed. There is still only one clock. Sexual maturity arrives at something like 150 years. The paper says at least 156, plus or minus 22, and that figure is an inference stacked on an inference, a length at maturity borrowed from other studies, read against the same modeled growth curve. The litter is modeled at 200 to 300 pups. The entire observational record is one female, around 5 meters, carrying 10 near-term pups in one of her 2 uteri. The authors say themselves that the estimate remains to be verified. This is an animal that grows about 1 centimeter a year. It is not fast. Its best burst is around 0.7 meters per second. A seal swims at about 1. It cannot catch one. So the hypothesis is that it takes them asleep. Nobody has ever filmed it. That is arithmetic, not observation. The stomach contents are mostly fish, with seal tissue in about a third, whale in about a fifth, and, once, a polar bear. Most likely scavenged from a carcass, the authors of that survey said. Its flesh carries so much trimethylamine oxide and urea, the chemistry that keeps it working in freezing water, that eating it fresh will poison you. Iceland's answer is a detox protocol disguised as a delicacy, buried and dried for weeks until the toxin falls below detection. And here is the part that changed this year. The picture everyone carries of this animal is a blind thing. Almost every specimen has a parasitic copepod anchored to the cornea. A 1961 survey found it on 84% of the sharks examined, usually one on each eye. The animal became a metaphor, ancient, blind, drifting through the dark. In January 2026, that collapsed. A team measured the corneas and found they still transmit 70 to 100% of incoming light, parasites and all. The rod pigment is tuned to blue, 458 nanometers, matched to deep Arctic water. And retinas from animals a century old showed no obvious degeneration while expressing genes for DNA repair. The authors are careful. Species and life stage were not fully independent in their dataset, and cold water metabolism may itself slow cellular decline. But the shape of it holds. This is not a blind animal drifting through the dark. It is an animal that has kept its eyes working for longer than the United States has existed. We could not verify the age. We cannot explain it either. 2 genome teams, one still a preprint, one published in May 2026, found expanded DNA repair networks, an extra copy of a tumor suppressor gene, changes to the proteins that stabilize chromatin. Neither team claims to have shown that any of it causes the lifespan, and the easy explanation is already dead. Cold and slow, the story goes. That is why they last. In 2020, researchers measured the metabolic rates of 4 of these sharks. The rates fell inside the range you would predict from ordinary body size and temperature scaling. Nothing exotic. A big shark in cold water, behaving exactly like a big shark in cold water, which leaves that unverified number doing work nobody checked it for. The species is listed as vulnerable. That listing rests on an estimated 59% decline, with a plausible range running from about 12 to 73%, depending on which generation length you assume. And generation length, for this animal, depends entirely on the age data that has never been independently confirmed. We are managing a 400-year animal on the strength of a single study, and we very nearly ran out of time to check. At its peak, the Greenland liver oil fishery is estimated to have taken something like 58,000 sharks a year. It wound down in the 1940s as synthetic oils arrived, and commercial liver oil fishing in Greenland ended in the 1960s. The same 100 years that handed us this clock nearly emptied the water we were measuring it in. A shark born the week that study was published will not be old enough to reproduce until sometime in the 2170s. Nobody alive today will find out whether she made it.